Hey guys, so today I want to talk about Serum and specifically about the edit window, the advanced edit window, and even more specifically about how to import audio here. So if I go back to this for 1 second, if I click on this little pencil icon right here, I go to the wavetable editor. Now I'm not going to explain all the things about this. There's plenty of information to find about that. But very shortly, what we see here is we see one wave, or we can call it a cycle. We see a single cycle. And at the bottom here, we get these different thumbnails, or we can create multiple waves. So if I click this plus icon right there, I'm creating multiple waves. Now, one of these is called a wave, but all of them together are called a wavetable. That's why it's a wavetable synthesizer. So if I click on one of these, I can edit it like that, and then I have these two different waves that I can use. Now, this is all good fun, but the really interesting thing for me here is to actually import your own audio. So first I'm gonna remove that, and then I'm gonna go to import. Now, if I click on this import at the top here, we get a lot of different options, which is sort of confusing maybe. But basically, there's sort of two categories. Roughly, there's two categories. There's these FFT imports, and then there's the normal audio imports. So what happens here if I'm just gonna choose the first one. What happens if I import something like that? This is a kick drum. You can see that it has sort of you can see sort of the shape of this kick drum still in here, but they're all in a different wave. So you can see that it starts with a very sort of noisy kind of sound, and then there's the low thump of the kick, and then it sort of fades off and it becomes quieter and quieter, and it sort of decays like that. And then there's a whole lot of silence at the end of the file. So it's, instead of loading the whole sort of audio file at once, it tries to recognize these single cycles. It tries to recognize the wave in there. And that's the same thing that happens when you, if you zoom in far enough on an audio file, you get that sort of curvy thing right there. You get to see the wave cycles. So that's what it's trying to recognize. Now, it only has space for 256 cycles, and if we scroll to the end of what we just import, we can see that it has now 131 cycles. So we could go with a longer file, and in fact you can make the file, you can import the file as long as you want, but the distance or the space between the cycles is going to be bigger, because it's basically gonna take a picture of the file or a snapshot of the file less often. So you get a lower resolution. And what that means for us is clicks, basically. So right now, you can see that if I scan through this, it sort of jumps from one wave to another. It doesn't go very smoothly. And there's some information in between there that it's missing. So that has to do with the resolution here, the amount of waves that you have and the length of your file. But to go back to this for 1 second, this first option says via dynamic pitch 0 snap. What that means is that it's going to try to recognize the pitch of the file, and it's going to base its frames on that. So the frames are for different lengths if the pitch is different. Both of these first two options are great for files that have a changing pitch, and kick drums often have a changing pitch because they often drop in pitch, especially if you're talking about 808s, but regular kick drums do that as well, because if the drummer is hitting the kick drum skin, then at first it vibrates very fast, and then it slowly starts to vibrate slower as well, which drops the pitch. So every drum sound has a very fast pitch change, in fact. So that's why for this kick drum, I like to use these options. Now, the difference between these two is that the first one, it says 0 snap, and that means that it's going to try and base its snaps or its cuts, its different wavetables on 0 crossings. And 0 crossings are a moment in the audio file where it passes through just 0 phase. So if we take a look at this file here, we can see that right there, that will be a zero crossing, because there's no sound right there. And above this center line, it's positive phase, and below it's negative phase. So in the middle there's no sound. Anyway, what that means for us is that it's going to try and reduce clicks, basically. Now, this doesn't work very well if you have complex material, if you have reverb, or if it's a stereo sound, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for Serum to find those zero crossings, just because there are less zero crossings. So this other option, it has a fixed frame. It doesn't try to locate those zero crossings. Generally speaking, this first option is better for simple sounds, and this second one is better for complex sounds. Now then there's the other option, and there's the FFT option. The FFT is a whole different thing. It instead of basing its frames on those cycles, it loads something named FFT bins. Now I'm not going to go in too much detail about that. Now, in fact, I think I need to do like a separate tutorial just on that. So for now, let's focus on these first methods. So I've imported my kick drum. Right now it sounds like this. That doesn't sound like anything. It sounds like this. So that's this first wave we're hearing. We can select another one. Right, and but just as a convenience sort of thing, if we're in this window, the mod wheel is actually mapped to scan through these frames. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some cleaning up, and you have to do that with pretty much every file you import, unless you specifically made it for Serum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these empty waves here. I'm holding Shift, and then I click the first and the last one, which will select them all. And then I'll go to Add Remove, and then I'll say Remove Multi-Selection. So this has cleaned it up quite a lot already. And now we're only using 25 different frames, which is great, because that means that we can set up the other frames, the frames that we have left out of the 256 for morphing. And what morphing is, it's basically gonna build a transition from one wave to the next. So right now, if I don't morph this and I modulate or automate this wavetail position knob like that, it's gonna, so this LFO in this case, it's gonna take this knob all the way up to the right edge, and then it's gonna jump back to the beginning. So this is making a loop basically. So I'll set the speed to 1 bar. So you hear all those clicks there. And those clicks are caused by not smoothly going to the next wave. It instantly jumps from one position to another one, and that's when you get a click in an audio file. So now what we can do is we can select all of these, again holding Shift, and then we can say Morph, and then we can say Morph Crossfade. And now what it has done, you don't really see it, but it doesn't actually create new waves, but you can see that the last wave is now 256 instead of that what did we have before, like 25. So in between here, it has created these morph tables. And actually, if I now scan through it, you can see that it goes a lot smoother. All right, so if we now do the same thing again, we should get a little bit less clicks. So it sounds a lot smoother if I remove those morph tables again. Right, so we're going to do a morph crossfade. We're also going to talk about morph spectral. It's basically the difference between morph crossfade and spectral is that spectral will actually resynthesize the waves in between, and crossfade will just do a normal volume crossfade to the other wave. So right now, this is actually the thing that I wanted to show you, but I just wanted to explain this a little bit. I want to make some sort of an arpeggiator sound out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that modulation there, But instead of having this ramp up shape, I'm gonna go for sort of a stepped shape. And I save one here to sort of save some time. Now what this will do, it will jump to random positions in that wavetable. Which gives sort of that arpeggiator feeling. Now, in order to make this a little bit more consistent, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna select all these waves again, and then I'm gonna say process, normalize, and that's gonna make sure that all the waves are as loud as they can be. So you can see that it took the peak of the waveform and made it as loud as possible. So now we get a little bit more of a consisting sound out of this, where every step is sort of the same volume. And then maybe give it some more voices. All right, let's just make that a little bit more interesting with some filter modulation. So I'm going to use LFO2 there on the filter. Now you can see that it modulates both sides, or in other words, it's bipolar modulation, meaning both positive and negative modulation. If we go over to the mod matrix, we click this arrow here, it's going to make it into unipolar modulation. So that way I can set the filter all the way down, the modulation all the way up like that. Now maybe just a little bit of delay and some reverb. I like that. Let's get a little bit more flavor in there using a comb filter. I want a little bit more of a metallic sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of the comb types here, just a regular comb filter, and I'm going to set the resonance very high. So the resonance is the feedback in this case, and then I'm going to modulate the cutoff with note number. Which means that it's gonna follow the pitch of my keyboard. Alright, that's quite nice. One last thing I want to do is let's try some super aggressive distortion. I'll set the filter to pre-distortion, so we're affecting the input to distortion. I'll go for some crazy, what should we do? This one looks fun. And then let's actually modulate that input filter as well, which is a great thing to do in general for distortions. And something like that maybe, I don't know. All right, so it's a very short tutorial today, just showing you actually how to create a cool sound from basically anything, because this is actually, it says kick your edit nice, but it's actually not that nice. It's a super crappy sounding kick drum. But with this technique, we can make anything sort of sound good. We can make anything into something usable. So I hope you have fun with that. And for the next tutorial, I will talk about the more advanced import types as well.
The Pyramind Mentorship Network connects you to experienced professionals for truly customized private training in music production, sound design, music business, and more. Use our scheduling tool to select the type of training you want, pick your mentor, find a day and time that works best for you, then book your session. Your appointment will be confirmed instantly. Study only what you want, progress at your own pace, pay as you go, and do it all from the comfort of your home or studio. Our global network of industry experts are here to help you. Visit pyramind.com/mentorship to get started.